Hello again. Here we are for another video. I'm dressed a little differently. Not dressed really, just have this adornment on my head just for the fuck of it. It's a change of perception. Covering up the bald head. I've been showing my bare bald head in other videos. Not like it's a big deal. Let me get more comfortable. So I wanted to do something a little different. I'm still trying to freestyle. Maybe I'll cut this up if I stumble and fall, which I probably will. Stumble and fall, don't know if I'll actually edit it out though. I was going to talk about how absurd the modern world that we live in is. We're born into a world with all these constructs and paradigms in place that we had absolutely nothing to do with. And what I mean is, like, compared to like the world that our ancestors inhabit, if you think of humans as like an animal species, a tribal band of really advanced monkeys, which is pretty much what we are. But now we live in a world where there's all these structures. I live in an apartment, there's cars, all these devices, this computer, how I'm talking to people across the planet, possibly. Not at this point, but maybe one day. That's what we aspire to, right? So, there's this entire fabric of society, rules and culture, and it's absurd. None of it makes any sense. This is so far removed from like what our animal being was designed to live in. We weren't really designed to like live in a box and then drive or walk to another box. And like my entire job is nonsense. I sit at a computer and I write code, I look at configurations for servers, I keep all these magical boxes running so that the pixelating rectangle shows the right combination of pixelated dots on the screen. That's pretty much what I do. It's fucking magic. In any era 1,000 years ago, it would just be magic. And we barely understand it. I have this theory that humans aren't even really that smart individually. We appear smart collectively, and we have like our moments, but I think really people just really get fixated on certain things, and it makes them seem, smart in that one category. Like, think of your most cherished heroes across time and space. If you scrutinize them heavily enough, you're gonna find flaws, and they're gonna look stupid in some facet or capacity in their life. It's pretty much true for everyone. Another golden rule of mine is that everybody is full of shit. We all live life through our own lens, through our own experiences, and I think that it takes a certain amount of humility to admit that, because like I'm saying this for myself included. We're all kind of full of shit, We all drink our own Kool-Aid, and it's pretty much just a concoction of all the different things in life that, we've been exposed to create these worldviews. Where was I going with this? This is where we need to do a cut, because I was on a train of thought and now I lost it. But yeah, I know where I was going with this. I was going to talk about a word that I did not coin, but I thought it was genius when I first heard it. And I think a lot of people think that they're smarter than they actually are, and it's because of this. It's because of this device, which I heard referred to as prosthetic intelligence. I love that. I love that, the idea of that. Because it's a prosthetic, it's not mine. This little rectangle contains the breadth and depth of my entire civilization's knowledge in this one tiny little fucking rectangle. Even my parents had to go to the library to read books. They had to go through the Dewey Decimal System, a very complicated, annoying system to find books in the library. And even me, when I went to the library as a little kid, it was like type it into a computer, find out the row and all that. Didn't have to literally, there were you would pull out a drawer full of index cards. I remember this as when I was really little, and you had to learn this system. That was how libraries worked back then. Now, going to the library is why would anyone ever do that? I think only homeless people and drug addicts go to the library to try to shelter themselves from the rain. I mean, it's just a harsh reality. I don't know if you've been to the library lately. Even in my hometown, it was like that. I mean, I went there as a kid because didn't have access to the internet or a computer otherwise. So me and my friends used to spend all day in that bitch, just on there playing video games or whatever the hell we wanted. Thank God for the internet, because if it wasn't for that, I don't know if I would have gotten a quality education. The public schools in my hometown were kind of shit. And that's another thing, I guess. This is, God, I'm like multiple threads here. We're just letting it rip. I think that, college is an antiquated paradigm of learning. There's a lot of people that say, oh, college should be paid for, should be free. And I will admit that we are limited in the fact that, like, depending on what profession you go into, like medical, law, several others, you have to get these accreditations. It's all government mandated. Now, if you go into IT, you have this luxury of, like, you could go to school, or you don't even necessarily have to go to school. If you can prove your aptitude, then you can get your foot in the door. Next thing you know, I mean, look at me. I've only got a 2-year degree at a little piddly ass community college that took me 10 years to get it, but I'm a lifelong computer nerd, been on computers since I was a little kid. Bada boom, bada bing. Once I finally got my foot in the door, I hit the ground running and I fucking slayed. And then I slowly propelled that into something else. My point being, though, education in a college context is kind of asinine, because there's really no excuse for not learning today, because anyone, anywhere pretty much has access to the internet. And if you have access to the internet, you have access to all the knowledge of everybody on this fucking rock. You can learn anything. Honestly, if I had the interest, if I had the dedication and the fixation on learning how to make like nuclear reaction happen, I could probably figure that out. Give me long enough. I mean, I could search all over the internet and I could learn how to do it, possibly. I know actually there's hobbyists that have done that. I've already seen like little micro documentaries, like people that have learned how it works. So you can learn anything you want. There's really no excuse. It's basically like, what are you doing with your time? I mean, I guess I'm projecting in a way. I'm self-reflecting, like all this, there's plenty of free time that I've wasted down the toilet of consumption and entertainment. And I mean, that's the American way. That's the Western world. We've been pampered. We've grown up with like all of this privilege. People talk about this privilege and that privilege. Do you understand the world that you inhabit? You're all privileged. Every fucking person, especially in America, from the top to the bottom, like privileged. Imagine what your fucking ancestors were going through even 100 years ago. People were dying of everything. And now you can push a button and have your laundry done for you. So, yeah. And like, I guess the other thing I wanted to get into is in this world of modern comfort and convenience, I think it's made life a little too easy. The struggle and strife isn't there. There's not much that we're overcoming on a day-to-day basis. I don't know, there's something to be said about like not knowing when you're gonna get your next meal and then getting that meal. I imagine that feeling is pretty satisfying, pretty fulfilling when you're unsure of where your resources, where you're gonna sleep, if you're gonna make it through, the next big storm. Those are the types of things that like our ancestors dealt with, and I don't know. I think other people have talked about this, but I agree with the idea that, living in a modern society has certainly numbed us to the convenience and comfort that we enjoy on a day-to-day basis, and is probably at the root cause of mental illness, at least in the forms of depression and all the other things. We all feel that way sometimes, and it's a lack of gratitude, I think. I mean, there's plenty of people that have talked about this before, our sagely and wise people on this planet. But yeah, lack of gratitude, lack of appreciation for all the comforts you have. That's why, like, I don't know, it's hard to stomach a complainer. There's people that will complain about any and everything. Pretty much probably could never make them happy. There's people like that. Like, you just can't make them happy. Even if you fixed all the tiny little things, like, I'm not sure if they could ever truly enjoy life, because they'll just find that other little thing. I mean, life's never been better than it is now. I mean, you could argue on the merits of, like, I don't know, even I romanticize about sometimes I wish I was born 1,000 years ago. A simpler existence almost sounds alluring to me, but I don't know what the reality of that's like. Maybe miserable, out there fighting for clothes and food and shelter and all the things that I just have right now. I mean, at least it would give me that context, but I can only intellectualize that concept. I've never experienced that, what our ancestors dealt with in the past, so I can only theorize what it would feel like. It's like, try to empathize, but it's mostly intellectual. It's an intellectual exercise. So yeah, gratitude. Gratitude's important. I try to focus on gratitude. You know, we all get down on ourselves for this, that, or the other, physical appearance, or not feeling smart enough, or whatever it is. But you're probably doing all right. I'm sure you could look around and see examples of how bad it could be. You know, if you have all your appendages, you know, you can see here. I mean, there's any number of things that you probably take for granted, and you know, take a moment to appreciate them. I try to do that. I didn't mean for this to go into like a gratitude thing. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to ramble about how much sense the world doesn't make anymore. And as we continue to evolve as a culture, as a society, it seems to make even less sense. For a long time recently, I have felt a lot like a lion trapped in a cage at the zoo. I don't know, I feel like they're trying to domesticate me. I have, you know, a very strong urge to like just, sometimes living this life, it doesn't feel fulfilling. I just, you know, that's when I start romanticizing about being a warrior in the past. Sometimes I feel like I should have been an active duty service member in the military. I only did it as a reservist. And so I never got to experience that. But I will say the short time that I did spend, there was something very fulfilling about, I don't know, the sense of duty and discipline and getting up every day and meeting up with a big group of people, and you have a shared objective. You make friends super fast, and there's like a sense of community. And I think like as we get older, that sense of community just fucking evaporates. Like a lot of us live in silos. Like it's like the nuclear family. It's a mom and dad and their kids, you know, living in the house, and like they don't talk to their friends, or every now and then they'll have like a play date, but like it's such a small isolated island of human interaction. Sometimes, you know, I've thought about, you know, theory crafting a different world, a different society where like, you know, more families collaborating and a bigger, like, you know, our ancestors were more tribal, and like it would be a big thing, you know, you'd all huddle around, you'd have like your separate tents, but you'd all come to the communal fire. Like we don't have shit like that anymore. I mean, we kind of do. You go out to the bar, I guess it's the closest thing we got. You go out to random events, but now we got these fucking distractions, you know. A lot of people can't get their nose out of that device. And I guess I have that issue. I certainly do it from time to time. Hell, it's funny when people go around, like you think about social anxiety, or like you go out into a space around people and you're like a little uncomfortable, you don't feel loosey-goosey, you don't want to go talk to anybody, but then you're awkwardly standing around, and then you kind of like pull out your phone and act like you're looking at something important, and you're not, you're just trying to not be weird. You ever have that shit happen? I have that shit happen. So yeah, this is another fucking banger of a video from me. Video editing, still a skill set. You know, I was talking about how you can learn anything online. You still have to look it up, and you have to put in the work, and man, that's tough. Especially working a 9 to 5 and coming home, just having, that's why I like take away everything else. It's like take away any little distraction, any little modicum of entertainment to pull me from this purpose of cultivating the craft, of pouring myself into something bigger than myself, of being creative, instead of being a consumer of everything else. I've consumed plenty. I've consumed enough. There's so much out there to consume, and other people are creating it, and I'm like, you know, it's time to put something else out there and stop consuming. Just pretty gnarly cut, huh? We're actually learning some shit. Probably tell by it's dark in here. We've been at this for a while. I'm recutting again because I tried to walk up after that sword display, and I kind of stumbled over my words, so let's try to do it better. I just wanted to take a moment to interject to get a word out for my sponsors. Johnny's Anal Beads, they're the best. Ask your girlfriend. Of course we don't have any sponsors. I actually need you people to subscribe, which, you know, one day we'll animate all that shit one step at a time. No, the reason I actually made this cut is I wanted to highlight an interesting nuance of the brain. So like I notice a thing while I'm doing it, but I only notice it subconsciously. I'm subconsciously aware that I did this little verbal tick. And then I'm not consciously aware of it though. I even say like, I'm not sure if I did it, and I just did it. So I'm gonna go ahead and highlight it with text here. So here we go. Creating it, and I'm like, you know, it's time to put something else out there and stop consuming. Just, that's what we're trying to do. So Anyhow, oh, that reminds me. I wonder if I used any. I meant to try to be conscious of some of my verbal tics that I might use in the middle of a video, but I don't know if I did it or not. But I've rewatched a lot of my videos. I noticed in the past couple, I had a tendency to talk in the third person. I kept saying we instead of me or I. I don't know if that's a big deal. It just stood out to me. You know, we're all our own worst critics sometimes, but I wanted to, been analyzing my behavior, analyzing myself in 3 dimensions on video. And now we're rambling, so this is probably getting boring. I'm gonna cut it short. I have a video that I'm planning right now. I'm trying to storyboard it out. Gonna be an actual real attempt. I would love to tell the story of an experience I had in Toronto. One of the more profound experiences, and I love how it ties into this overarching feeling of fulfillment and gratitude and just general well-being and existence, like how I felt. Spoiler alert, I did a bunch of mushrooms, but it's a fun story and I would love to tell it and see if I can actually make it a cinematic experience. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I'm out. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.